Alright, this is the Royal class Eduard P-51D Mustang. It's a dual combo, 1 in 48, which means there's 2 of them in there. 1/48 scale. It's a bit dusty because I've had it for ages. It comes with a whole bunch of colorways, which is great, or decals. I've bought my own decals, so let's see what we've got. So I've got an Eduard mask here, P51 weekend 1/48 scale. So I really dislike making masks for warbirds. It's really hard. The curves are very difficult. So for $8, that is welcome. What we've also got is, I've got 2 actually, because something happened in the mail. But this is the post World War II Mustangs, and 77 Squadron is this AMG one with the shark's tooth, and I think that's the one I'm going to go for. It just looks awesome, and I've seen it in the flesh actually. It flew around Canberra for the Air Force 100 flyover, so that was good to see. It's not a shiny silver, it's more a kind of a matte silver finish, and I've got some spray paint that I used on a Mercedes AMG, so I'm going to use that again, but for this one. And these are from Novascale, so they're not the greatest, but in terms of RAF, Novascale are probably one of the few makers these days that you can get, and the other one being Ronin. So being a Royal class kit, it comes with extras. This is the extra. This is the World War II, I can't remember, Marston matting I think it's called, and it's just so something to put your model on. That'll look great. I think I'll have to figure out what rust and kind of gungy colour we can paint this, find some kind of browny, dirty, muddy colour, but that's the first stand I've ever had. Generally, the Eduard World War II stuff from the late 2010s is excellent. So this is, I think, a 2018 sprue. Looking pretty good so far. So 2 of everything, and I'm actually going to give one of these to a friend of mine. So I'll put one aside for me. I've got clear parts. Looks like something's broken off. Ugh. Hopefully not too scratched, but you get about 3 options here, which is excellent. For the bubble canopy, I wonder why that is. Who knows, we'll find that out. I've got some fuselages. It's like I've got 3 here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Huh. Maybe we've got 3s. Really? Well, that is quite kind of them. And all the internals, accessories, things like that. Resin parts, which I'll give to my friend because I don't really like playing with resin parts, but amazingly good detail. Amazingly good detail. Wheels, exhaust, manifold parts, and then of course the photo etch. So 2 sets of the photo etch for the cockpit generally, maybe bits and pieces from the outside as well. Looks pretty good. Oh. And another set of photo etch. Okay. What else is under here? Oh, okay, and all the decals here. Huge array of them, which is great. But interestingly enough, you just get the 1 set of decals, not doubles. So there's the shark's tooth there, which is kind of cool. So we'll put that back. these are all Cartograph, I think, are they? No, they're Eduards. Okay. Made in Czech. And the instructions, like typical Eduard instructions, really nice crisp instructions on glossy paper. Lots of different options. Wow. Okay. That looks quite substantial. It gives you the photo edge detail parts. Oh, there's a mask as well. It does come with a mask. Where's that? I'll have to look for it, because that's great. I thought it didn't have a mask. Gonna save mine for another time. Here it talks about the mask. Okay. Oh, look at that. That is wonderful. Really quite wonderful. Oh, here they are. Awesome. Awesome. Aluminium lacquer painted areas. Okay. Stencils. If I wasn't doing my one, the silver coloured AMG, I'd probably do this one, which is really similar to the 3 Squadron one that I made from Airfix. So it'll be quite interesting to see the differences between the two brands. That's really great. Okay, is it 1 or 2 of these? 2 sets. Fantastic. Okay, so we've just put together most of the cockpit, the fuel tank, I think it's a fuel tank, control column. Just everything just snapped together. It was so easy. So that's the thing with Eduard, when we've got a modern or recent Eduard, really fine, very, very fine parts. Everything just kind of drops into place, and it's just a touch of cement to kind of put it down, and once it's down, it just fits perfect. So let's hope that the rest of it goes together as easy as that. That was great. So just a progress report on the Eduard Mustang P-51D. Both sides of the fuselage are put together now. Everything just clicks together, so nice and easy. You can basically hold items in place and then just kind of run the glue down them. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how this comes together. And then I think this one, I'm going to have it on one of the Airfix stands, so that I want to have wheels up, because the other one I have is wheels down. This is the Airfix one I have. Also 1 in 48 scale. So I've got this one. I put this together, I think last year sometime. Put a bit of effort into weathering, it seems. I need to get back into that. And yeah, this one all went together very well from memory, and really nice details on it as well. I think it got reviewed quite well. So looking forward to seeing how this one turns out in comparison. Okay, some progress on the P-51D Mustang. So we've got the rudder and rear elevators on. One thing I noticed was I picked the wrong fuselage. So this is the shorter version, not the long leading edge, which is fine. It's just something that I've learnt about Mustangs now, is that they're those 2 different variations. So that's been quite interesting. I've left these straight, all straight. I couldn't be bothered putting them on an angle. I think it looks quite nice, all nice and flat like that. Maybe on the next one I'll do all the angles. I had that on the Airfix model. It was all the flaps were moving or had moved off angle, and that looked quite cool. But I didn't want to do exactly the same thing for this one. So yeah, but otherwise everything fits so well together. Some join issues just at the front here, which could just be pressure, just a bit more pressure put on, like with clamps, to close it up, and maybe some putty. But otherwise all the other seams feel pretty good. A little bit of a bump there, but not so bad. All going together really, really nice and crisply, as you'd expect from Eduard. Just onto the decals now, and the painting of the khaki nose, just behind the nose, don't know what that's called actually, the cowling, engine cowling. So just masking down this area here, making sure it's nice and gap-less, I guess. The little bits are lifting off, which is going to be a problem if we paint and it bleeds in. So I try to push this down, and hopefully we're not lifting up the silver paint. Silver paint was just spray can. I just gave it a couple of light coats with the, I think was it TS13 maybe, like flat aluminium, and just gave it a few light coats, just so that we would retain all of this beautiful pin detail, or this rivet detail that's there, and not go too heavy on it. It's always easy to put too many coats of paint on. I think I've missed a little bit on the front edge there, just there. I might just leave that and see how we go with see how we go once we put the decals on. A note here, I tried using the scriber tool. It's this tool here, it's a Tamiya tool, and I think I'll put that down. Just open this guy up and lock it in place, and just kind of scribe down, and it's got sharp ends on the front and on the side. But what I think happened was, and they say it a lot in the instructions, is you should, using this type of masking tape down the line that you want to make with the scriber, and then just follow it down. And I was doing that freehand, and you can see it looks pretty rough. So that's a lesson learnt on this build. Otherwise it's an Eduard build. Everything just came together really nice. The only issue is just on the front areas here, had to fill with some putty, but you can hardly tell, well, I can hardly tell that I've done it. I'm sure really good modelers will have made that nice and smooth, but yeah, for me it's looking pretty good. This time I've left the undercarriage off, and I'll paint that separately in white. It always seems to be hard to paint white around undercarriage when you've already painted this area. I think traditionally this interior should be in a cockpit green, as well as that bit there, but I'm going to put this up, I'm going to leave this as it is, and just make do with that. I want it to be a really quick build. It's only really taken probably a day of building to put this together so far, and very enjoyable to do because it's such a smooth build. The only thing to note in terms of fit is that front edge there was a bit of a gap, and I couldn't push it down. And also here in the cockpit you can see there's a gap there. When we compare this to the Airfix model, I'm going to Airfix model here, you can see how nice and smooth this one was, and how nice the top detailing is on the Airfix model, whereas with this one I've had to sand it right down because there was a panel gap that was appearing there, and it was just a little bit of a mismatch. But the detail on this guy is really quite nice. Actually, it's probably a good time to compare the two just now, just to see in terms of the panel detail. The reviews on this Airfix model were pretty good, and it's also quite a new model. Just noticing the front area, this front area I think is a bit wider than on the Eduard. Hard to tell under the masking tape. I made a mistake also, which I outlined earlier, which was that there was options for the fuselage, and I've gone for the wrong option on this one. It's the shorter tailplane bit, whatever this is called, that I've gone for, whereas we can see in the picture it should have that extra piece in there, which is on here. And actually really fine detail on this Airfix model as well. From memory, the Airfix model didn't fit that well in terms of the wings, but it actually as a finished product looks pretty good. So just back from the painting booth, we've put on, rather than khaki, I went for olive drab actually, which I think is probably a better fit for this model than the khaki. It had already been filled and there wasn't much paint left in the bottle, so there's a bit of discoloration there, but I'm hoping that the contrast with the silver will help. So let's just remove a bit of masking tape. Hope not to take the silver paint with it. I've never actually used this large tape, so that's working so far. A bit of overspray there. It's looking okay. Yeah, just underneath there, you see where some of it's leaked. It's a bit of a shame. Okay, let's see how this bit went. Oh, it's okay. So interestingly, where there's the panel, it kind of hits the line and then travels along a little bit with it. So why won't it focus? Oh, we've got minimum focusing. Okay. That one's looking alright on that side. Oops. So that was just held on with blue tack anyway. So I think we're good. Excellent. So far so good. Let's get this back on. Alright, nice. Not so bad. Oh, I think I know what's happened. Is because I sanded it so harshly. What's happened is that paint has filled in a bit of the sanding. And so where you've got panel detail there, that's remained, but where we don't, it's just kind of really sunk in there and made it a lot more dark. So what I've got here is the Novascale decals sheet. I'm going to go for this one. This is the A68-750 from 77 Squadron. It's the AMG. It's the one that they're actually flying at the moment. I don't know if it's the 750, but AMG they've got on with the shark's tooth on it. So I think that looks the best, and everyone else reckons so too. Looks hopefully quite straightforward as decal sheets go. I'm not going to go overboard with it. I just do the basic ones and see how we go. I just noticed there was a red flash on the back of that one. That looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Anyway, we're going to go for this one. So that was just a cover sheet. That's great, quite a lot of detail on this on this decal sheet here, explaining how to use their decals. So cut 10 seconds, let it stand on it for 5 seconds, moisten with plenty of water, slide off the backing. So sometimes I go more than 10 seconds. I've been guilty of maybe like a minute or 2 minutes, and to the point where it lifts right off. So 10 seconds, that's interesting, in lukewarm water. Yeah, great, let's give it a go. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Okay, so I've got the Novascale decals out. I didn't realise, I don't think I've used these type of decals before, where effectively it's somehow laser printed onto this sheet, and then there's a white sheet as well with this backing. And I think what you're supposed to do is you've got to basically cut it ever so precisely, and then it glides on that way. There's no actual like a cartograph type slide where it's got a thing pre-cut and you can slide it off the main surface, so you can be quite rough with your cutting and it's fine. This one, it seems to be, you have to be very precise with your cuts, and because that's exactly the film that's going to end up on the model itself. So maybe it wasn't as quick as I thought it would be. Let's give it a go. Okay, back with the Mustang. I've noticed what we're doing is we need to have one white decal and then the coloured one on top of it, which I've never done before. So this is all a first. So you've got the white sheet here and then the colour sheet here. So I might do one day the white one and one day the colour one, and hope that, yeah, hope that it works, basically. Alright. If it wants to lift as well. The 10 seconds was not quite accurate on the instructions, so it needs a little bit more than 10 seconds. And it's going to need a lot of really accurate decal work, which is not always a great recipe, is it? Alright, see if this is ready. Okay. I've put a bit of mark fit down already. Just sliding. It's folded over itself. This is going to be quite fiddly. Very careful. So I'm just moving that by finger and it's just gliding over the surface at the moment, which is great. Put a bit more mark fit on. A little bit high, I'll move that down a tiny little bit. And then just use the Q-tip to just put a bit of slight pressure down. And clean up the decal. Right, okay, let's keep going. So I've just cut out this roundel, stick it in the water while I talk. I did notice there is some white backing on these ones. You can just slightly see it through, and they did say use the white one if you've got a very dark background. So I'm going to try it with this one roundel, see how it looks on the silver, and if it's white enough, then just go with that rather than trying to put one decal over another decal, which is just going to be way too hard. Yep, let's try that. Looks like the roundel's just inside of that. Just inside between those two lines there, quite central. So this picture here. So just to come away. Oh yeah, that'll work. That looks grand. So push it up to the line, about there. Let's put some mark fit down. Beautiful. Okay. Yep, these were the other ones. Just noticed a little bit of wrinkling as I looked away, so just a bit more mark fit on it, and just tiny little bit of pressure on the Q-tip so that the wrinkling doesn't get too much out of hand. There we go with that. So this last of the decals going on. Just in line with the eyes, just in line with the exhaust there. So the decals have been pretty tricky. They're very thin. The detail is very fine. And it doesn't take much for you to make an error. I just nearly stuffed it up then with my finger holding down that AM. But it doesn't take much to make an error with these very thin decals. But I think we're successfully on. At times with them, they won't move unless you put a hell of a lot of mark fit strong on them and then use your thumb to move them across. Normally a toothpick or the tweezers can encourage a decal to move along, but in this case these ones are very thin, very fragile, and somehow a thumb actually was the best to move it around. So I'm really happy with it. I think they are looking great. Thin decals are really nice because they help with a lot of the detail and they don't pop out so much. But yeah, I'll use them again. Definitely. So this is Novascale, made in Australia. Very good. So I just noticed some green overspray from when we were doing, just in here, from when we were doing this green painting here. The masking tape didn't cover it just, so Just going to come in with some thinner, enamel thinner, just to wipe that away a bit, and you can see just the paint coming away just off the surface, and that's it. That's enough. Love it. Very rare that something like that works out for me, so happy with that. So what I've done here is use the spray paint, TS17 it was, and I can't remember the black, but I've painted on the sprue the wheels that were there, and then the inside, the rims were actually on the side here as well, and so I've just kind of used the spray paint straight onto the sprue as a really quite a lazy way of painting. What I realized actually was I could have had all the undercarriage on because I've used the same color spray paint as for the main body of the plane. I've put a matte clear coat on here just to protect the decals. I'm not gonna do much weathering on this one, I don't think, maybe just a bit on the panels. So right now it's just about getting all the little bits and pieces of the undercarriage together and glued on, and then the last thing is the propeller. I've already painted again with the spray paint on little sticks. I've put the two propellers, so the propellers, and it just then needs the yellow tip to go on the outside of it, which will take a bit of masking and a bit of yellow paint. So that's, and then we're basically done. So it's been quite a quick build, I think about 2 weeks. Let's see how fast I can get this done, hopefully by tonight. And we'll glue on the antennas. There's one underneath here in that hole there. They're the smaller ones, and then the larger ones on the top. And I can also then remove the canopy mask. So all in all, going pretty quickly. And also the tail wheel is tiny. I've put a bit of masking tape on that and just a bit of black. That might be either with a Sharpie right here. I might do it with a Sharpie, just to again save time and make it quite a quick build. So nearly finished. I've just got the pinvice out. I'm going to put on the antenna. I think I'm just going to drill a hole somewhere here. I hope the whole thing doesn't bloody fall apart. Oh. It's tight. Oh. Oh dear. Okay, so what's happened is it's cracked. Cracked the main fuselage apart, and you can see the gap there. That's just happened. It's alright. I think we'll just glue this guy in. This is a neat little kit that I got. So it's a Tamiya, I think it's, no, it's not a Tamiya. It is a Tamiya pinvice that I got. And just an aftermarket set of drill bits. So let's get this guy in. This, of course, was spray painted with the tin. I'll put it on the antenna itself. That's a good fit. Now, how am I going to make sure that the fuselage is glued together again without upsetting anything? Let's try a tiny little bit of this. Let it run along the seam. Right. That was exciting. Time to take off the canopy mask now. So just using a scalpel blade, just get in and pick away at the little bits. And these were Eduard using decal tweezers. It's looking pretty good. Just pick at a little corner, grab the rest. I still haven't figured out how to fix things when the canopy, the underside of the canopy gets foggy. And it gets foggy just from moisture or maybe a bit of paint that gets in there or something like that. And I think what I need to do is use blue tack just to hold it in place first. Do the painting, then take it off, give it a polish, and then back on. I think that will fix it. But happy with what the mask has done. It's done its job on the front of the canopy anyway. And I think the dark green has hidden the fact that there's a bit of lifting on the front of the canopy. Just here there's a bit of lifting. This is coming away pretty quickly. Probably just see what I mean. There's just this kind of little bit of darkness there. I don't know if it's, I think it's the underside, and you can see a little bit of fogging. That's just there. There's a little bit of fogging there, and I think that's just moisture inside the canopy getting up. Yeah, quite noticeable. Just scratch the canopy when I'm doing this. Normally pretty good, but there's a bit of scratching that happened just then. Okay, come on. Right. Cool. So all that remains now is to get the propeller on. So that's just held at the moment by a bit of blue tack. But I'm really pleased with this at the moment. It's looking pretty good. Decals are sitting quite nicely, and I think the silver has worked all right. It's probably a little bit too silvery compared to the real plane, which I think is a bit more of a like just a flat grey. But all in all, pretty happy with that. Let's just see if I can sit it down, if it's going to fall over or not. No. That's looking good. So the propeller tomorrow. Just going to run through the final review and thoughts on the Eduard 1 in 48 P-51D Mustang in RAF. Australian RAF 77 Squadron markings from just after the war. So we've got the blue and white roundels and the shark teeth that everyone loves, including me, and AMG on the side there. Really enjoyable build, very quick build, which was the idea, was to do minimal work to get a finished model and just see how fast I could build something. In terms of just some details, it was part of the Royal class packaging from Eduard, which meant that you get 2 P-51Ds. I'm giving another one to a mate of mine. You get 2 models. You get a lot of resin parts, which I didn't use, and you get a lot of PE parts, which again I didn't use, and also a lot of decals and a lot of different options within the kit. Priced I think about $140 for the 2 of them, which works out I think for a warbird in the more expensive region. I think the Airfix one that I have was I think $40, so nearly half price. I built this in April 2021. I think the level required is probably beginner to intermediate, and it is a premium aircraft just because of the parts and the cost. In terms of the artwork, I thought the artwork on the box was really nice. It was a golden stencil on a navy blue backing, really simple but really nice. 9 out of 10 for the sprue quality. The plastic is of really good quality. I mean, it is a new sprue at 2019, a new tooling, 2019. So you'd expect that there's a lot of clear details, minimal cleanup and sanding required. The fit was really good. Some putty required just in front of the wings, just in this area here. And I think, where was it? And just area just forward of this front of the canopy here, which didn't sit very well. As you can see, there's a bit of shadow there in the front. Other than that, putty seems to fix most of those issues. In terms of clamping, I didn't really need to clamp things down too much. The instructions, 9 out of 10, really, really good instructions and very, very clear illustrations. They look to be like computer generated computer generated on very, very clear glossy paper, and there's color plates at the end for your different marking options, and those are really, really nice. You probably put them on the wall if you wanted to, they're that nice. In terms of design and construction, 18 out of 20, fit really, really well, really quick to put together. A few little gaps between things, like I've explained before, where I've had to put the putty just in the front of the wings, but other than that, just everything just kind of clicks together really nicely. In terms of the decals, I've got the decals from Novascale, and they were kind of water slide on type things, which I've used once before. Really quite fiddly. You need to be very tight, and they're very, very thin. You need to be very tight in terms of cutting them out. There's no backing. Sometimes with a lot of the normal decals you get from the Tamiya and places like that, they've got quite a thick decal, and they've got quite a thick backing to them as well, surrounding the actual detail. But with this one, it was up to you to how thick or how close you wanted to cut, for example, to the blue roundel. So yeah, you could leave a bit more if you wanted to, or you could go really tight so that as you look closer, the detail is there. Speaking of that though, the problem with, I think it's either laser printed or bubble jet printed, is you can see the little dots and on the actual roundel, so they're not clean as you'd find on Tamiya or even on the cartograph type more professional decals. But for what it is, I really love it. I think it works really nice from, you know, a meter away. It looks perfect. You wouldn't know the difference. So 6 out of 10 for the decals. In terms of enjoyment, 9 out of 10. Really quick build. I think it was 3 weeks in total, and that's probably really like a day and a bit to put it all together. I used a lot of, for this time, spray paint. I used a TS17 Tamiya lacquer and no primer. I just went straight for it, hit it. I didn't bother putting any of the green under here. I just thought we'll just do it as quickly as possible, and then just the olive drab XF 53, I think, just on the front there, masked it off and hit it with that. The propellers also just with a black spray paint out of the tin, and then the yellow was the flat yellow. It's an XF Tamiya paint as well, so all very, very, very quickly put together. I even used the spray paint straight onto the sprue for the undercarriage parts, and then just glued them in afterwards. So that that cut so much more time than I would normally spend in terms of priming, in terms of if there's a camouflage scheme, all that type of thing. I haven't weathered the model, so I've just left it as it is. More because for me it's a display plane these days. It flies in the 100 squadron in real life, and is really well taken care of. So overall, very quick and enjoyable build. It is a premium product, lots of extras in the kit. Fantastic detail in terms of the panels and all the little rivets and things like that. You can see lovely. You've got a lot of different options for the canopies, and also for the fuselage, which brings me to, I picked the wrong fuselage. So this is it's the wrong tail on this model compared to the actual one, and I'll show you the Airfix one that I have here. And you can see that tail there is different, so it's got that elongated front area there. So 86 out of 100 I give this one. So really nice model, highly recommended. In terms of what I expected it to actually be much better than this Airfix model, but actually what I found was that the Airfix is really good. The Airfix had a lot of fit problems in terms of the wings and clamping it down and making sure that it actually worked. However, as you can see, it came with the option of moving a lot more of the flaps into position. The detail across the top of the fuselage is really nice, whereas I had issues with this one with just a slight fit issue across the top, and I had to sand it down, and I lost a lot of that detail, whereas this retained on the Airfix model because they have it as a single piece. I didn't use a special mask for the Airfix one. I just used a bit of liquid and liquid masking and just scratched away at it, and it's not as neat as using an Eduard mask, which comes with the kit. In terms of the panel, the detail, the panel details is excellent on the Airfix as well. It pops really well, as is the Eduard, but I did expect this one, as it is nearly double the price, to be that much better. It really isn't. So I think you'd be very happy with the Airfix model. I'm happy with it just looking at it now, and I remember I was a little bit disappointed when I put it together, that I didn't think it was as nice as the Tamiya Spitfire, but looking at it now and comparing it to the Eduard build, it's really good. It's a really good purchase, this Airfix, and it's also very new. It's a 2018 sprue, so, and highly rated as well. In terms of what I learnt, I think again the Eduard masks are fantastic to use. Really help cut the time. The spray painting, you don't need primer underneath it. Well, I didn't for this one. I would say the other thing with this one is I should have just put the undercarriage on and painted it rather than do it separately. But I'm really happy with the way that the wheels turned out. They're separate parts, which is also really nice. I think these were also, separate parts. But I think they turned out really nicely. Probably the best wheels I've put together, and they were all spray painted. So they're maybe that's a lesson for me. That spray painting is not a bad way to go. In terms of what I'd do better next time, I think spend more time on the cockpit as well. There's a lot of extras that were there for me. I'd also probably cut all these winglet areas and the elevators and the rudder and give it some shape, as I have done with this one over here. I guess I just didn't want to copy it exactly, but I think, yeah, now looking at it now, if it's plain, it'd be more dynamic with those areas in different configurations. Other than that, really good build, and I'm looking forward to seeing how my mate goes with his one. Thanks for watching.